Welcome to Sports Beat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, April 19th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Today we catch up with Kansas State and beat writer Kellis Robinett. So much is going on with the Wildcats that after we talked about topics such as coaches' salaries and new deals for the offense and defensive coordinators, Kansas State continued to make news on other fronts, especially in recruiting. In basketball, they picked up a big commitment from five-star guard David Castillo from Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And in football, the Cats kept their state pipeline flowing with a commitment from Blue Valley High running back John J.B. Price. So it's been quite a busy time for the football and men's hoops programs that are coming off sensational seasons. Okay, let's get started talking Kansas State and college athletics with Kellis Robinett. Kellis, I don't think we've talked since the end of the basketball season. Maybe we did right after. I can't remember now, but it seems to me that I went off to – you came home from New York. I went off to the Final Four and then have done some Royals, and you've just been still waist deep in Kansas State news. That the news never stops. So, yeah, I think this is the first time that we've spoken since the end of hoops. A lot of things going on, though, at K-State. You've been busy. Let's start with football contracts, football coaching contracts. Some interesting news out of Manhattan with big raises for the coordinators, for Colin Klein and for Joe Klanderman. So what do we make of this? I mean, let's start with Colin Klein. He was a coach that was kind of in demand after the season, wasn't he?
He was very much so, and that's been a big curiosity point in Manhattan ever since he got quite a bit of interest. The big one was Notre Dame reached out to him, said, "Why don't we fly you in to South Bend? You can see the place, you can interview for the job, and see if you want it." Went on the trip, liked it. Ultimately decided after some K-State players, pulled on his heartstrings and told him he needed to stick around and win some more Big 12 championships with him. And he was promised a raise here. You know what? Okay, I think he'll stay at Kansas State, keep trying to win a alma mater. And everybody's kind of wondered, all right, so he was making $600,000. Notre Dame probably could have paid him, I don't know, well over $1 million if they really wanted to. So what in the world was Kansas State paying to keep him? Turns out the answer is $825,000 a year, which, it's not what Notre Dame could have paid him, but that is by far the most that Kansas State has ever paid any of its coordinators before. I think they were already there with Colin Klein making $600,000 last season. So it goes to show that they really like what he's doing. They really like the direction of this football team, and for them to step up and give him basically a 40% raise with the possibility of bonuses, which could push his salary next season over $1 million, shows that they're committed to winning right now. They don't want to lose these coaches if they don't have to.
Yeah, the Wildcats put up some great numbers on the offensive side this past year with Colin Klein on the call, right? And I don't think did they lead the Big 12 in scoring in yards? I don't know if they led, but they were certainly up there among the leaders.
Yeah, a lot of really good advanced statistics liked them. I think they came in at over 410 yards per game, definitely over 30 points a game. And you could really tell that once Will Howard took over as quarterback, him and Colin Klein really clicked with what they were doing, because there was a while there they were pushing almost 50 points a game. And I know one talking point when we have spoken to people the spring during practices was that with Colin Klein back, with Will Howard back, yeah, it might be hard to replace Deuce Vaughn, but with that kind of continuity there, they're looking at, scoring 50 points in games next season, 60 points even if they can do it. They want to be pedal to the metal right now. So a lot of promise there, a lot of promise on defense. And, overall, I think this is, just kind of a commitment to the way things are going. The challenge for them moving forward is if you're going to spend an extra $1 million on your assistant coaches, you're also going to have to pay more to Chris Klieman. You have to pay more to Jerome Tang now that he's done what he just did this past season. So the cost of winning has never been higher in Manhattan. It's kind of interesting at the same time that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the conference. This is transpiring.
No doubt about it. So I believe I heard a lot of chatter, but the line that I heard the loudest was, you guaranteeing Kansas State's going to average 60 points a game next year. That's quite a guarantee, Kellis. That's quite the bold statement.
It is, especially with the schedule they got coming up. Texas and Oklahoma are still around, and Kansas State, they like scheduling those hard teams in non-conference. Last year it was Tulane. Next season they get Troy, who had, I believe, the number 1 ranked defense in the country last season in FBS. So when they go out and put 70 on the Trojans, people are going to have to take notice.
Remind me who they miss on the Big 12 schedule next year, though. The 1 year of the 14, or at least these 14 teams, with the 4 newcomers and Texas and Oklahoma for the 2023 football season. Everybody has to miss a few opponents. So who remind me who K-State misses next year?
Well, they don't play Oklahoma, which was a little bit of a bummer for the people around here who've enjoyed watching Kansas State beat Oklahoma so many times over the years.
Yeah,
West Virginia, also not on there. They will play Houston, so that's a new one. They will host Central Florida. That's a new one. And those would be the big ones that they're missing and playing. But you don't get to play Oklahoma, you don't get to play West Virginia, don't get to play BYU or Cincinnati this cycle. But Kansas State, always nostalgic, does have Missouri, an old Big 8 team on the schedule next season.
That's right. The Wildcats go to Columbia after manhandling Mizzou this past season. So, all right, as we mentioned, it's not just for the offensive coordinator, but Joe Klieman, the defensive coordinator, also at $850. And you mentioned it, Kellis, $1 million more in the assistant football coaches pool of salary, and that is a pretty big statement. And again, and you mentioned earlier, I want to get into it with you. Chris Klieman and Jerome Tang, the raises have not been announced for both of those coaches. They're going to happen. So Kansas State will be paying its coaches more than at any other time in its history, which, listen, I expect that to be it's probably the case at most schools, paying their coaches. That's just the way the world works. You coach a few years, you get more money, and you get replaced, and the next guy makes more money than you did. And that's just how it works in the escalating coaching salary world. But it's a big jump at Kansas State, isn't it? I mean, in terms of percentage of its budget, I imagine its coaching salaries have maybe never been bigger than what it is right now. But you're right. It's the cost of doing business if you want to compete for championships.
It is, and it will be interesting to see what numbers they settle on with Chris Klieman and Jerome Tang. I think the numbers they'll probably target are there's an unwritten rule in the state that KU is not allowed to pay their football coach more than the coach earns at Kansas State. Same rule applies if you switch to sports. Kansas State can't pay their basketball coach more than KU's. So KU came out and offered Lance Leipold, I believe it was $5 million or a little bit more than that this past season, and not go to Nebraska. I am fairly confident that Kansas State will find a way to beat that number. It might only be by a slim margin. So you're talking about maybe 5.1 million, 5.2 million. But I think they're going to find a way to get there, and that'll be a big bump from what he was expected to make this next season, which was 3.6 million. And I think you might see, towards the end of his contract, the number 6 million pop up there, which is something I never really expected to see from Kansas State. And honestly, puts them in a position where once Texas and Oklahoma leave, they would be at the high end of the coaching scale in the Big 12. I believe Mike Gundy currently makes the most in the Big 12 at 7.5 million. So if Chris Klieman was in there anywhere in the fives, he'd be fairly close to that number. So it just kind of shows you how the changing landscape is going to work once Texas and Oklahoma leave. And then Jerome Tang, I think with him, you're probably looking at beating what Iowa State just gave Otzelberger. They just bumped him up to $2.5 million. Jerome Tang, I think, is deserving to make more than Iowa State's basketball coach does. So I think they find a way to beat that number as well.
You're right about those numbers. I agree with you as well. Otzelberger just got raised and extended. So, and it is 2.5. Jerome Tang, it's a 2.1 here at K-State. So yes, right. As of this moment, he's the lowest paid Big 12 coach.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah. And nobody went farther in the NCAA tournament than Kansas State did this year. So Bill Self, by the way, the last I saw, depending on where you go for the information, you get slightly different numbers, but 5.9 million is where I have seen the Bill Self salary. A couple of years ago, he was at 10 because of a lot of clauses and bonuses that kicked in for him, but he's at 5.9. Bob Huggins at 4.2, Scott Drew at 3.7 on the basketball side. And on the football side, you're right. I've seen the same thing. Mike Gundy at $7.5 million, the highest paid coach in the Big 12. Brent Venables and Steve Sarkisian, right around $7 million each for both of those coaches. And I believe I think you quoted Gene Taylor as saying he believes that the Kansas State football coach should be in the upper half of the conference when it comes to salary, especially one that's had the success, a Big 12 championship trophy, bowl games every year. The success that Chris Klieman has had, he deserves to be in the upper echelon of Big 12 coaches, and that's where you think he's going to end up being, right?
I do, yes, and anything over 5 million would put him in that range, and that kind of opens up a good debate there too. Is where would we rank Chris Klieman compared to other Big 12 coaches right now? I think he'd probably have to. I mean, he'd definitely be in the top half. I saw one online poll the other day had him number 1 out of the new 14. I think you could make an argument for him. You could make an argument for Gundy. I think you'd almost have to have Klieman in the top 3 right now because he's actually won the championship and everything. So
Sonny Dykes would have to be up there.
Yep, Sonny Dykes as well. And yeah, if you've got a coach who's proven and he's would rank that high up in the the coaching rankings, you got to pay him as such. So one other thing I talked to Gene Taylor about on this topic because I asked him, let's say that this Chris Klieman just goes on an unbelievable tear here, wins a bunch of Big 12 championships, and it's to the point where Kansas State, feels compelled to try and pay him more than any other Big 12 team. Could they do it? And it was interesting that his answer is more or less, I hope we could, but we're also Kansas State. We don't have the same athletic budget as some of these other schools, and there might be a point in time where we have to say, look, we just can't pay our coaches any more than what we get to. He wouldn't say what that number would be, but I found that interesting that at some point there might just be a cap to all this.
Well, and I wonder if that idea changes in the post-Texas, Oklahoma world of the Big 12, because when it comes to athletic budgets, no one compares to those two programs in the Big 12. The gap between 2 and 3, and 3 is usually Kansas. Oklahoma State's up there as well. It's enormous. And Houston, Cincinnati, Central Florida, and BYU don't bring the budgets to the league that Texas and Oklahoma have. They're more in line with middle of the Big 12, bottom of the Big 12, really. They're all going to benefit from the new TV, the Big 12's new TV deal. But maybe the equation changes with Texas and OU out. But one thing that makes me think about, Kellis, is just how much perception is important here. I'm sure Chris Klieman, in an honest moment, can tell you that he and his family can somehow get by on $3.5 million a year, and the same with Jerome Tang at $2.1 million. That they can find a way to make that work somehow if they stretch a little and skimp and save, and might be able to take a vacation in the off season. But there are lists of the top paid coaches in the Big 12, and I think a fan base it has an influence here where they want their program to be seen by their school as one willing to pay a coach among the best in a conference, among the best in the nation. And if we're not doing that, then how seriously are we taking the sport? And that's just something that I've kind of come to realize over the years, that there's absolutely a perception game being played when it comes to coaches' salaries.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Kansas State takes a good approach to it. They want to pay their coaches, competitively. They want them in the top half of the Big 12. They want to show that they have the commitment, but they don't really go there until the coach has proven themselves, right? Like Jerome Tang comes in, first-year head coach. We're going to pay you, the same the lowest number in the league,
right.
basically. But once you show that you're worthy of a little bit more, we'll find a way to get reward you. I very much like that strategy, and they've done a nice job of going out and finding coaches who aren't just here for the paycheck. They want to be here. They want to stay here. They want to build something here. That's one reason why when Jerome Tang's name came up for other openings this past season, I was never really too worried about it. I think especially the way the community and the fan base wrapped their arms around him this season, I didn't see him going anywhere unless Kansas State did something like, giving him a pay cut after the season. That might have ticked him off.
Right. You got to take a hit, Coach. Sorry.
But barring that, these coaches want to be here. So they've got a nice little mix there. I've not liked it in the past when I've seen other schools. I'm sure it's happened elsewhere. I'm going to pick on KU here doing it. But I remember when they hired Turner Gill out of Buffalo, they felt like they needed to pay him like one of the top 3 coaches in the league at the time, which was like, what really? It's just basically because we have a commitment to pay our coaches a lot of money. Well,
yeah.
It was not justified at all. So
I see what that got you.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I very much like this approach. Kansas State has done it the right way.
Well, it's a practical. They've taken a practical approach in just about everything they do, and it has served them well over the years. With various athletic directors, but it's almost like a school-wide university philosophy that K-State has. So good for them. All right, Kellis, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll play a K-State lightning round. I'm going to throw a bunch of topics at you. Just you tell me in quick order what you think. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There's Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening. We're back on SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast, and we're talking college athletics and Kansas State sports with Kellis Robinett, the beat writer. And Kellis, there's a lot going on, as there always is. I can remember when I was covering colleges as a beat, neighbors would ask me in April and May, well, this, nothing going on. You must be home all the time now. People don't realize there's more going on now than during a season. It's not the high profile stuff. You're not at a game, right? Always at a game, but it just seems like there is always something going on. It's a big recruiting time. There are some spring sports that absolutely deserve to get some attention. And now the transfer portal keeps you busy and occupied all the time. You found that to be true, haven't you? As a college beat guy, that the spring things, it's hard to get your breath.
By far the biggest misnomer in our profession is that once the NCAA tournament ends, we don't do anything until the fall.
So opening kickoff.
Game. Yes, opening kickoff of next year arrives. We're just on vacation for 5 months or whatever. I've got that question so much these last few weeks. I'm out to dinner. People say, "Hey, you must be enjoying your downtime, right?" I'm like, "What downtime? There's still plenty to do." I mean, I do get weekends. Weekends are free now, which is nice. I'm not getting 8 hours on those, but during the work week, there is still plenty to do. I laugh. Even my own mother the other day was like, "Boy, how are you filling the time?" I'm like, "Well, if read the paper, I'm putting out more stuff now than I was during the season." But yes, especially with the transfer portal now, there's just so much movement. People coming, going everywhere. Anymore, there's just not a really true downtime for us.
Right. All right. And speaking of the transfer portal, Max Asmus, maybe one of the top prizes out there, the Oral Roberts guard, who really was a star in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago. It was during the COVID tournament when he was a freshman. He was just fantastic and still considered one of the very best players available in the transfer portal. Kansas State mentioned prominently with him. So was another Big 12 school, and that is Texas. In fact, I saw one report. It's going to be one or the other, that's amazing if it is. But what are you hearing on Max Asmus?
So I think you can throw one other school into the mix there too. I think Baylor Baylor might get a visit from him as well. I think they would be the clear number 3 right now, with Kansas State and Texas battling out for number 1. But he's a good fit at both places. He's interested in both. You would think that maybe he has a little bit of a lean toward Kansas State because he visited Manhattan first. He was here on Saturday, flew into town, hung out with the team, hung out with the coaches. I think one of the assistants had a crawfish broil here, according to his Instagram account.
Yum.
So yeah. I mean, I would have liked an invite to that. But yeah, I got to see everything. I've not heard that anything went poorly. He did not commit though, so I think he's going to follow through and go see Texas, and then maybe make a visit to Waco and make up his mind. But I will say, if he chooses Kansas State, that would be a tremendous get for Jerome Tang, because he is not only a very good scorer, he's a very good assist man. He's basically, he's not a carbon copy of Marquise Noel by any means, but he's a little bit taller version of him. He plays a lot like him. You could almost just plug him into the lineup and just know you're going to get good production. So he's one of the top-rated transfers out there. It's obvious why. And Jerome Tang would love to get him if they can.
He'd be an preseason all-conference selection right off the bat, probably preseason newcomer of the year. And Kansas State would not get a better player newcomer for next season than Max Asmith. Right now, the team in the Big 12 and maybe even the country leading the transfer portal is West Virginia. Syracuse's center, Arizona's point guard. They've done fantastic, and Huggins is just cleaned up in the transfer portal, and that is a program to keep an eye on in the offseason going into next year. Okay, some other items that we need to catch up on, Kellis, we haven't talked about. Sean Snyder, newest assistant coach on the staff of the University of Kansas Jayhawks. I have really enjoyed reading the conspiracy theories about Sean Snyder over the last few weeks. I guess it just can't be as simple as he was looking for a job and Kansas had an opening and they hired him. No, it's got to be a lot more complicated than that, I suspect.
I never knew that someone taking a job as a special assistant to a head coach would cause such an uproar. But I suppose when your last name is Snyder and you go to work in Lawrence, that's what happens. The joke I've said was that Jerome Tang needs to fire back and hire Tyler Self as an assistant on his staff.
That's perfect.
Then things would really be even in the Sunflower Showdown. The height of awkwardness would be there. I mean, it's weird. You see, I saw the pictures when Shreya, took the photo interviewing him in Lawrence wearing the Jayhawk and the blue and red. It was just
I can see where that would hurt. I can see how that would definitely hurt.
It's like, what am I looking at here? This is not something I thought I would see. So it'll take some getting used to, but I really think that his family still lives in Manhattan. If he wants to coach and it's not going to be at Kansas State, you can't do it anywhere closer than Lawrence. I can see why it's an appealing job for him. I can also see why fans on both sides just think it's weird and would think there's some kind of conspiracy theory involved. I don't think there is. I don't think Sean's going in there to sabotage KU. I don't think he's going to convince Bill Snyder to turn into a spy to help him either. I think they can all do this as professionals and play, and it won't be an issue next season. But it is weird, and I do definitely wonder next season when KU plays K-State, like, does any part of Bill Snyder secretly cheer for KU in that game? Because he really loves his son, and that's got to complicate that game for him more than it ever has in the past, where the goal has always been, let's just beat this team by 50.
Yeah. So you don't see him wearing a Donna Kelsey half KU, half K-State windbreak.
I don't. I can guarantee you that would not go over well with K-State fans if he tried. It would be a lot like, I think you were there for this game when the governor of Kansas showed up to a KU Wichita State game trying to support both teams and just got booed mercilessly out of the stadium.
Yes, he did.
I think Bill just be best served to, wear a suit or wear a K-State gear.
Right. I was going to say it also wouldn't work because there are no bowl windbreakers from KU. I guess they did pick one up last year. So, Okay, a couple other real quick items. Kellis, as I'm looking out the window from where I'm talking, I can see Union Station, and they're putting an awning, a huge awning. It looks like almost a sun visor on Union Station. That is the build out for the stage of the NFL draft, and there's a big draft poster behind it. Kansas City is going to be the heartbeat of the NFL, like it was for the Super Bowl parade, but now for the NFL draft next week. And one local product hoping to hear his name called sooner rather than later is Felix Enudike Uzama. What's the latest you've seen on a mock draft projection of him? Could he possibly be a first rounder?
He could be. I know he was probably a little bit bummed when he didn't get the invite to come sit backstage and watch the draft. He told me that was something he really wanted.
Only 17 were invited, I heard today.
Yeah, so very, very hard to get in that grouping if you're going to be a borderline, first, second round pick like he is. So I totally get it, but he made that very clear to us when we talked to him at K-State's Pro Day. It was I would love to be invited and go as a Kansas City native. But you know what? He still gets to be in town for it and everything, so that'll be a great honor for him. I think if he does get drafted, it'll be late first round. It could even be to the Chiefs because they need some defensive ends. They could use a pass rusher, and he showed at Pro Day he can move in space. He can get after you. So I think you'll see him go late first round or early second. I've seen some mock drafts peg him in the late 20s, which could obviously happen. If not, I think you'll see him be early on day 2. And I think Julius Brents also. He doesn't get nearly as much talk as Felix does, but he's a very tall cornerback. It's hard to find guys like that who are tall, have a lot of athleticism, can run, cover guys of all sizes. He can do that, and I think he'll be a second-round guy as well.
He is. His stock is really rising. It is he must have just tested great, combine great and all that. So good for him. All right, last item, Kellis. I love this question from you because these are the kinds of things I just love talking about. I saw it from your Q&A that we'll post on the story that we post on the podcast. But best athletic year for Kansas State sports, 2022/23. If it's not this year, it would be the one 10 years earlier, 12-13. You were there for all of it. I got to cover a lot of the events in those years. There have been some really good moments in between, but in terms of just overall athletic success and high profile athletic success as well, these 2 years have been fantastic. Is one better than the other?
I think it's a very difficult question to answer because there's so much winning in both. I've split it up basically into 2 categories. If you're looking at just purely the best season in terms of wins and losses, I think you probably have to go with 10 years ago. They won the baseball crown. I guess Kansas State actually just swept KU in baseball, so maybe there's a way they could do it again this year. And all of a sudden then we're really having a debate if baseball wins the Big 12 again this year too. But I think that helps a decade ago. I think it also helps that football team won one more game. They were ranked number 1 for a period of time. The basketball team went 14-4 in the Big 12.
You're right. Yep.
This team only won 11 Big 12 games. So from a regular season perspective, back then was a little bit more impressive. More overall wins, fewer losses. I think higher. The difference is that this year, I think, was a lot more fun. I think this year had way more big, just crazy wins than we saw back then. 10 years ago, there's a lot of success, but how did the seasons end? Football lost at Baylor, crushing loss. They don't get to play for an NCAA title. Basketball, they lose to LaSalle in the first round of the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, crushing loss. So you have these great seasons that just end in just a thud. This year was the complete opposite. Kansas State wins the Big 12 in football with a walk-off win in Arlington. Yeah. You and me were there. It was amazing. I've never seen people so happy. When Deuce Swan broke off that long run to not seal things, but to make, really give Kansas State a shot at winning there in the fourth quarter. That's probably the loudest cheer I've heard. Even at away stadium, that's the loudest I've heard a K-State crowd react to a play. And then in basketball, you get all these great wins. You beat KU at home. You get a court storming. You beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. You beat Michigan State in the NCAA tournament. is just like one huge party after the next. So I think if you're looking at it from, which was more fun, which was more exciting, I'd give it to this year. But if you're purely looking at like, analytically, which year had the better teams, I'd probably say 10 years ago.
Yeah, but like you said, there's still some spring sports out there that can add to this year's bounty. So great stuff. And, and speaking of contract extensions and raises, Gene Taylor's got to be something coming his way, I would suspect, at some point.
Yeah, I mean, people have called him the best athletic director in the country this season, and people aren't, really arguing that fact. So, yeah, if President Linton wanted to give him a pay bump, I don't think anyone would object to that.
All right, great stuff as always, Kellis. I will support your pay bump if you just put in the word, and you were there every step of the way for all these great moments. It's been great. Well, it won't be our last conversation before the end of the school year. We'll definitely talk again. But thanks for doing this, and we will catch up again soon.
All right, Blair. I support your pay raise as well.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Randy Mason, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Kellis Robinett for sharing his insights. Today's Morning Sports Edition was 30 pages full of NBA playoffs, college sports news, baseball, the NHL, and much more. Check it out at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.